Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Hello there and welcome to the English program of Radio Algeria International. First, the top stories of the news. On Tuesday in Beijing, the President of the Republic, Mr. Ahmadji Tebboune, and his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping, presided over the signing ceremony between the two countries of 19 documents comprising agreements and memoranda of understanding. The President of the Republic, Mr. Ahmadji Tebboune, renewed his congratulations to the Chinese President, Mr. Xi Jinping, following his re-election as General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, CPC. The national pass rate for the baccalaureate exam June 2023 session reached 50.63%, announced the Minister of National Education Abdel Hakim Al-Abedi in Algiers on Monday. And in the Western Sahara file, the representative of the Polisario Front to Switzerland at the UN, Obi Bushra Bashir, has affirmed that the Moroccan occupation or occupied Sahrawi towns continued to face up all forms of systematic human rights violations. These are the major developments, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. This is Mohammed Barazwan reporting. First, in our news file, on Tuesday in Beijing, the President of the Republic, Mr. Ahmadji Tebboune, and his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping, presided over the signing ceremony between the two countries of 19 documents comprising agreements and memorandums of understanding. The signing ceremony for these agreements and memorandums of understanding in several sectors of activity took place at the Grand People's Palace in Beijing, following talks between President Ahmadji Tebboune and his Chinese counterpart. Shortly before this, the President of the Republic had one-to-one talks with his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping, preceded by extended talks with members of both delegations. President Ahmadji Tebboune arrived in Beijing on Monday as part of a state visit to China at the invitation of his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping. The visit is part of a drive to strengthen the solid, deep-rooted relations and economic cooperation between Algeria and the People's Republic of China. During his visit, President Ahmadji Tebboune is accompanied by a large ministerial delegation, including the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, and Finance Minister Laiz Fayed, as well as the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Al-Qab, Posts and Telecommunications, Mr. Karim Bibi Triki, Industry and Pharmaceutical Production, Ali Aoun, Trade and Export Promotion, Taib Zitouni, House, Urban Development and the Environment, Mohamed Musa, Housing, Town Planning and the City, Mr. Tariq Belaribi, Public Works and Basic Infrastructure, Lakhdar Akhrouch, and of the Knowledge Economy, Startups and Micro Enterprises, Mr. Yassin Al-Mahdi Walid. Still with his file, the President of the Republic, Mr. Ahmadji Tebboune, renewed his congratulations to the Chinese President, Mr. Xi Jinping, following his re-election as General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, CPC. During wide-ranging talks with his Chinese counterpart, President Ahmadji Tebboune once again congratulated President Xi Jinping on his re-election as Secretary General of the CCP. My visit to China comes after the signing of important agreements framing our historic relations, said the President of the Republic, offering his profound thanks to China for its support for Algiers' request to join the BRICS group and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. For his part, the Chinese President, Mr. Xi Jinping, expressed his country's commitment to continuing to bolster the friendly relations that have taken root with Algeria. Shortly before, President Ahmadji Tebboune received a solemn welcome from his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping, at the Grand People's Palace in accordance with ancestral Chinese customs and traditions. The warm welcome extended to the President of the Republic in Beijing reflects the depth of relations between Algeria and China. Here is now a backup report regarding Algeria-China cooperation.
Our colleague Asya Bakar has seized the opportunity offered by the visit of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, to China to ask CTGN radio journalist and former Washington correspondent with China Media Group, Kun Liu, about the historic relations linking the two countries, notably their friendship that dates back to the late 50s.
The friendship of China and Algeria goes way back. Algeria was among the group of nations that supported restoring the UN membership of the People's Republic of China back in 1971, and also Algeria was among the first group of nations who supported and joined the Belt and Road Initiative, which is a major development initiative by China. China was the first non-Arab country that recognized Algeria back in 1958. The first medical team that China has ever sent overseas was to Algeria.
Asked about bilateral cooperation, she evoked the various fields which Algeria and China have sought to promote along the years. She had the following.
Today, China and Algeria have close cooperation on major infrastructure projects in Algeria, for example, building mosques as well as highways. Since 1963, when China sent the first batch of medical experts to Algeria, over the years, China had sent more than 3,000 medical experts to Algeria. They helped improve medical service in Algeria, and also in return, these experiences enriched Chinese medicine.
Regarding the prospect and expectation of the visit paid by the President of the Republic to China in terms of investment and partnership, she had this to say.
For this trip by President Tebboune to China, both sides have high expectations. For Algeria, it will improve the exposure of Algeria, the country, among the Chinese people who might become potential visitors to Algeria, which has a great Mediterranean landscape as well as views. And of course, for Chinese companies, Algeria could be one of the ideal places for investment. And for China, it views Algeria as an important partner in terms of maintaining today's international order and especially voicing support for the developing countries and emerging markets. The potential for these two sides to cooperate on these issues is very big.
That was CTGN radio journalist, Washington correspondent with China Media Group, Kun Liu.
In other news, the national pass rate for the baccalaureate exam June 2023 session reached 50.63%, announced the Minister of National Education, Abdel Hakim Belabed, in Algiers on Monday. At a press conference held at the ministry's headquarters, Mr. Belabed announced that the average pass mark this year has been set at 10 out of 20, deeming the national success rate good and very reasonable. The phenomenon of fraud at the baccalaureate exam has seen a clear and unprecedented decline compared to recent years, thanks to the rigorous application of the law enacted in 2020 to combat this phenomenon, said the minister. In addition, a total of 713 graduates of the National Cadet School achieved excellent results in the baccalaureate exam session 2023 with a pass rate of 98.34%, while cadet girls recorded a 100% pass rate, according to a statement issued on Monday by the Ministry of National Defense. Still in the news, amid the celebration of the International Day of Nelson Mandela, a timeless icon in the fight against injustice and racism, on June 18th takes on a special significance in that his struggle and ideals against discrimination and hatred are the only compass and the best remedy for these scourges. The message from the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on this occasion puts it so well, insofar as he indicated that the best way to honor this giant of our time is to let ourselves be guided by his spirit of humanity, dignity, and justice to act together against racism, hatred, and the legacies of colonialism, injustice, and poverty. In parliamentary affairs, on Monday, Transport Minister Yusuf Sherfa, on behalf of Finance Minister Laij Fayed, presented to members of the Council of the National Upper House of Parliament a bill setting out the general rules governing public procurement, which aims to enhance transparency, facilitate access to public contracts through digitization, and involve startups. Now, in the Western Sahara file, the representative of the Polisario Front in Switzerland and at the UN, Ubi Bushra Bashir, has affirmed that Moroccan-occupied Sahrawi towns continue to face up all forms of systematic human rights violations. In a statement to the press, the Sahrawi official warned that in the absence of reaction by the international community, the violence might escalate. In this connection, he particularly deplored the lack of prerogatives for the UN mission for the organization of a referendum in Western Sahara, despite its 32-year-long presence there to monitor and report on Morocco's human rights violations. According to the Sahrawi official, depriving the UN mission of such a mechanism is the result of the maneuvers carried out by Morocco, which enjoys the support of some countries within the UN Security Council. He noted that endowing the UN mission with a monitoring mechanism of human rights in the occupied Sahrawi territories would help create an adequate climate for resumption of the political process. You are still tuned to Radio Alger International. In the Palestinian equation, the Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki has called on the United Kingdom to take an active position regarding the crimes perpetrated by the Israeli government against the Palestinian people. During a meeting held in Ramallah with the head of the Middle East and North Africa office of the UK Foreign Ministry, Stephen Heike, he insisted on the necessity for the international community to take measures to ensure the protection of the Palestinian people and to end Israel's continued attacks. In this respect, the UK official stressed the importance of opening up all channels of a constructive dialogue to ensure peace and security in the region. He further reiterated his country's support for the Palestinian government and people. This came as at least 13 Palestinians were arrested during operations carried out today by the Israeli occupation army in various parts of the West Bank, including Ramallah, Nablus, and Bethlehem. Meanwhile, France-Palestine Solidarity Association affirmed that the Israeli occupation authorities agreed on the setting up of over 12,800 new housing units in the West Bank. In other news and concerning Russia and Ukraine, Russia has warned Ukraine against any attempt to pursue its grain exports via the Black Sea, stressing that there will be no security guarantees after the expiry of the agreement. The Russian presidency spokesman stressed that such risk might be taken into account if any arrangement had to be made without Russia. This came in response to Ukraine's will to carry on its grain exports with or without Russia's agreement on the security of the Ukrainian ships. Russia has already announced the expiry of the grain deal signed last year under the auspices of the UN and Turkey, and denounced the obstacles that hampered the export of Russian products and fertilizers. Russia's refusal to extend the deal was denounced by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who affirmed that hundreds of millions of people would face famine and would pay the cost. You are still tuned to Radio Alger International, and now I invite you to listen to the second part of our audition with two timely broadcasts on schedule. I wish you fun listening.
Hello and welcome to this new edition of your weekly program, The Health Magazine. Summer is here with its hot temperatures, but also with its risks and dangers, especially with regard to food and beverages, which could pose a great threat to human health in case they are contaminated. Foodborne illness, more commonly referred to as food poisoning, is the result of eating contaminated, spoiled, or toxic food. The most common symptoms of food poisoning include nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The term food poisoning is commonly used to describe all foodborne illnesses. A healthcare provider might use these terms to be more specific. Food poisoning means illness specifically from a toxin in food. Food poisoning means illness specifically from a toxin in food. Food poisoning is a type of foodborne illness. Symptoms of food poisoning often include upset stomach, diarrhea, and vomiting. Symptoms usually start within hours or several days of eating the food. Most people have mild illness and get better without treatment. Sometimes food poisoning causes severe illness or complications. Symptoms vary depending on what is causing the illness. They may begin within a few hours or a few weeks depending on the cause. Common symptoms are upset stomach, vomiting, diarrhea with bloody stools, stomach pain and cramps, fever, and headache. Less often, food poisoning affects the nervous system and can cause severe disease. Symptoms may include blurred or double vision, headache, loss of movement in limbs, problems with swallowing, tingling or numbness of skin, weakness, and a change in sound of the voice. Sometimes it becomes necessary to see a doctor when the food poisoning affects infants and children. Vomiting and diarrhea can quickly cause low levels of blood fluids, also called dehydration, in infants and children, causing serious illness. Call your child's healthcare provider if your child's symptoms include vomiting and diarrhea and any of the following: unusual changes in behavior or thinking, excessive thirst, little or no urination, weakness, dizziness, diarrhea that lasts more than a day, vomiting often, stools that are black or tarry, severe pain in the stomach or rectum. Any fever in children under 2 years of age. Fever of 38.9 degrees Celsius or higher in older children, and history of other medical problems. Meanwhile, adults should see a healthcare provider or get emergency care if the following occurs: nervous system symptoms such as blurry vision, muscle weakness, and tingling of skin, changes in thinking or behavior, fever of 39.4 degrees Celsius, vomiting often, diarrhea that lasts more than 3 days, and symptoms of dehydration such as excessive thirst, dry mouth, little or no urination, severe weakness, dizziness, or lightheadedness. Many germs or harmful things called contaminants can cause foodborne illnesses. Food or drink that carries a contaminant is called contaminated food. It can be contaminated with any of the following: bacteria, viruses, parasites that can live in the intestines, poisons, also called toxins, bacteria that carry or make toxins, and molds that make toxins. Food can be contaminated at any point from the farm or fishery to the table. The problem can begin during growing, harvesting, or catching, processing, storing, shipping, or preparing the food. Food can be contaminated any place it's handled, including the home, because of poor hand washing. Feces that remains on the hands after using the toilet can contaminate the food. Other contaminants can be transferred from hands during food preparation or food serving. Not disinfecting cooking or eating areas, unwashed knives, cutting boards, or other kitchen tools can spread contaminants. Improper storage. Food left out for too long at room temperature can become contaminated. Food stored in the refrigerator for too long can spoil. Also, food stored in a refrigerator or freezer that is too warm can spoil. However, bacteria that cause foodborne illnesses can also be found in swimming pools, lakes, ponds, rivers, and seawater. Also, some bacteria, such as E. coli, may be spread by exposure to animals carrying the disease. To prevent food poisoning at home, you should do the following: hand washing. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Do this after using the toilet, before eating, and before and after handling food. Wash fruits and vegetables. Rinse fruits and vegetables under running water before eating, peeling, or preparing them. Wash kitchen utensils thoroughly. Wash cutting boards, knives, and other utensils with soapy water after contact with raw meats and unwashed fruits and vegetables. Don't eat raw or undercooked meat or fish. Use a meat thermometer to make sure meat is cooked enough. Cook whole meats and fish to at least 63 degrees Celsius and let rest for at least 3 minutes. Cook ground meat to at least 71 degrees Celsius. Cook whole and ground poultry to at least 74 degrees Celsius. Refrigerate or freeze leftovers. Put leftovers in covered containers in the refrigerator right after your meal. Leftovers can be kept for 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator. If you don't think you'll eat them within 4 days, freeze them right away. Cook leftovers safely. You can safely thaw frozen food 3 ways. You can microwave it. You can move it to the refrigerator to thaw overnight. Or you can put the frozen food in a leak-proof container and put it in cold water on the counter. Reheat leftovers until the internal temperature reaches 74 degrees Celsius. Throw it out when in doubt. If you aren't sure if a food has been prepared, served, or stored safely, discard it. Even if it looks and smells fine, it may not be safe to eat. Throw out any baked foods with mold. Throw out moldy soft fruits and vegetables such as tomatoes, berries, or peaches, and throw away any nuts or nut products with mold. You can trim away mold from firm foods with low moisture, such as carrots, bell peppers, and hard cheese. Cut away at least 2.5 centimeters around the moldy part of the food. Clean your refrigerator. Clean the inside of the refrigerator every few months. Make a cleaning solution of 1 tablespoon of baking soda and 1 quart of water. Clean visible mold in the refrigerator or on the door seals. Use a solution of 1 tablespoon of bleach in 1 quart of water. Safety for at-risk people. Food poisoning is especially serious during pregnancies and for your children, older adults, and people with weakened immune systems. These illnesses may be life-threatening. These individuals should avoid the following foods: raw or undercooked eggs or foods that may contain them, such as cookie dough and homemade ice cream. Raw sprouts, such as alfalfa, bean, clover, and radish sprouts. Unpasteurized juices and beverages, unpasteurized milk and milk products, soft cheeses such as feta, brie, and camembert, blue-veined cheese, and unpasteurized cheese, refrigerated pates and meat spreads, and uncooked hot dogs and luncheon meat. And with this, we come to the end of this week's edition of your weekly program, The Health Magazine. Do join us next week for a fresh edition with another health subject to be dealt with. Thank you so much for your attention, and bye-bye for now.
Welcome to your weekly program, Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Sameni. There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered. A curious mixture of cultures and influences, Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I, together. The small settlement of Jijel is located in the northeastern region of Algeria and is the administrative center and capital of the Jijel province. It is not a bustling city or town filled with nightlife and noteworthy tourist attractions. Jijel is more a resort settlement that does have a few important industries, but is a peaceful destination. In Algeria, where tourists spend most of their time relaxing on the breathtaking beaches. Jijel was originally established as a trading post that changed ownership from the Phoenicians to the Romans, onto the Arabs, and even fell into the hands of the legendary pirate Khayr ad-Din Barbarossa. Of course, most of the existence of these eras and the occupation by the French was destroyed by the 1856 earthquake that left nothing but memories and devastation in its wake. Today, the town of Jijel has a permanent population of approximately 100,000 that concentrates mainly on the production of agricultural products and fishing. Three larger industries, namely cork production Steel making and leather tanning have managed to flourish in Jijil. The cork production industry has led to the town being surrounded by vast cork tree plantations, bringing life to the landscapes. Another industry that has become vital to Algeria is the Jijil Tannery. It is the leading producer of furniture, leather crafts, and footwear in the country. Important establishments such as a mosque, hospital, and the University of Jijil are available in the town. The only noteworthy site in Jijil is the Phoenician tombs, located outside the town. These fascinating historical structures managed to survive the earthquake. Other than that, the greatest attractions to the town are the abundance of natural wonders, wildlife, birds, and the beautiful beaches. The town is mostly visited by Algerian locals who enjoy the peace and tranquility that is found there. Every so often, a foreign visitor will arrive to appreciate this scheduled getaway. Jijil can be reached by road from Algiers, Constantine, Bijaya, and Steve. The rugged landscape of the town and the magical opportunity to explore an area that has been left virtually untouched is an adventure. And being able to completely break away from the usual tourist destinations in Algeria and walk off the beaten track is a chance that should not be passed up.
الدورية فترة إخبارية صباحية